Hi guys, today we're going to talk about natural selection. How does actually natural selection lead to evolution? Well, in order to do that, we really need to understand about how natural selection occurs in the first place. It's kind of like a stepwise process where organisms that reproduce lead to really large populations. And if there's a large population, those organisms are going to be competing for resources. Those resources could be things like mates, water, food, shelter, different things that would, allow them to live in a healthy way. And those large populations with those limited resources will lead them to compete for those resources. And in this picture, it's showing you that these birds are competing for those food resources, and they're actually competing for that. If we use that bird example, some of those birds might have certain genetic traits that they have that is leading to their phenotypes, or with a certain shaped beak, like a hook. Maybe one beak is a little bit longer, or one beak is a little bit shorter, but maybe pointier at the end. Remember that those genetics, their genes lead to their phenotype. So the genotype is what they actually carried or contain with their genes from their parents, and then their phenotype is what they actually look like. So with that variation, that actually is what leads to the natural selection. If there wasn't a difference in their genes, there wouldn't be a difference in their phenotype, and we would not see that natural selection occurs. So that natural selection is people or organisms that actually have those traits that are well adapted to their environment can mate and have offspring, and those offspring will persist. So taking all of those concepts together, that natural selection in a certain environment can lead to evolution. And remember that evolution is by populations and that individuals do not evolve. So the requirements for natural selection to occur is that there needs to be variation, like we said before. There needs to be some kind of genetic difference between the population. And one thing to keep in mind is that we don't have differences in our genes. Like all of a sudden, if I wanted to do certain things, I can't change my genes, which will change my phenotype. It's not because I need it that I have it. The variation that exists happens just because of the genes that you inherit. And that, again, this is a random process. If we think back to meiosis, we can't control the genes that we get from our parents. We just inherit them at a random process. So taking this example so that you can kind of see it in real life is that there could be a variety of different plants that are in a certain environment. They're growing in the same spot, and they need the certain resources like water and sunlight. So if there's a lot of organisms in that particular site, they're going to be competing for those resources. If certain plants have certain genetic traits that allow them to get those resources better, they will actually produce more offspring in that particular environment. So what I'd like you guys to do now is come up with your own example, and that can be a hypothetical example. Using those steps, how would that population increase? What resources would they be competing for? And what kind of variation would lead to evolution? So come up with your own example, write it all down on a piece of paper, and bring it to class following those outlines that I gave. Okay? See you later.